Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So my name's Katie and today we're going to be doing some of my favourite ever LGBTQ plus books. So yes, today is the first day of Pride Month and also my birthday, although it's not actually my birthday today because I'm filming this early, but when I upload this video it will be my birthday, which I'm very excited. Well, I say I'm excited, but I'm also slightly having a crisis about it because I'm getting older. But anyway, yes, so for Pride Month this year I thought I wanted to do a little series of videos talking about some of my favourite books in different kind of categories. So this one I wanted to do like the best of the best, like my favourite ever queer books. And then I also planning on doing like a sapphic one, an Achillean one, an asexual one, like trans and non-binary one, possibly polyamory as well, I think. So yeah, that's what I'm planning on doing for these videos, which I'm very excited about because obviously it's a topic I'm very passionate about. Oh, we have to got Panini here repping. So yeah, let's just get started. So also I'm gonna keep the recommendations in each of these videos to 8 books because otherwise the videos will all be like half an hour long and I'll be waffling forever. And I'm also gonna try probably not any of the books in this video won't be in any of the other recommendations videos. So if you're watching like the sapphic one and you're like, where's Gideon? She loves that book. That's because it's in this video, so yeah. So obviously, because I've mentioned it, the first book I have to mention is Gideon the Ninth and the whole Lock Team series, although there's only 2 books out, but Gideon and Harrow and soon to be Nona. So this series is definitely one of my like top 5 favourite series of all time. I've reread it about 5 times. I would say the other top 4/5 series are all, they have queer characters in them, but I wouldn't really call them like queer books, to be honest, because they're huge like multi-cast like big fantasy books where there's loads of characters, whereas this series I feel like is very inherently queer. Like basically all the characters are gay and it's great. Gideon is like this butch badass. Harrow is this nun who's like hilarious, like super gothy and stuff. There's so many good characters. Ianthe, oh, I just love her so much. Yeah, anyway, it's a great book. And so what is it about? So following Gideon, who is been raised on this planet called the Ninth Planet. I feel like it is called the Ninth Planet, Ninth House. And she's been trying to like escape for her whole life. But her escape attempts are always being thwarted by this other character called Harrowhark, who is like the Reverend Daughter of the Ninth House, so she's basically like the princess of the Ninth House. And the like antagonistic relationship between them is just chef's kiss. But then one day Harrow recruits Gideon to be her cavalier for this like competition to ascertain these thing called the secrets to lictorhood, and lictorhood is basically like godhood. So Gideon and Harrow travel together to this Canaan house, which is like the first house, to compete with all the other 9 houses, or 8 houses because the first house isn't really a house, to try and find these secrets to lictorhood. And every house has a necromancer, which in this case is Harrowhark, and a cavalier, like a bodyguard, which is Gideon. And then it all starts going down and like murders start happening, so it becomes a bit of a murder mystery and it's just so good. All the characters are so iconic. Harrow then gets a bit more sort of sci-fi-y, and there's this like almost pantheon of gods type thing, although they're not actually gods, they're lictors, but they're also good. So yeah, I just love this series. I like the chaos and everything. The audiobooks are amazing as well. So just highly recommended. Okay, then the next series we have is The Unspoken Name by A.K. Larkwood and its sequel, which is The Thousand Eyes. And I really love both these books. I don't know, I feel like when I first read it I was like surprised by how much I loved it because I thought I would enjoy it, but like I just love this. And then reading The Thousand Eyes just solidified this series as like one of my favourites. So in this first book we're following Solway, who's been like raised in this kind of cult thing to be this bride for the unspoken one, unchosen one, can't remember what they're called, unnamed one. Anyway, something like that. And they she is basically, the night before she's meant to be sacrificed, she gets whisked away by this kind of stranger who takes her in to be his apprentice and like raises her to be this like sort of assassin spy thing. And then kind of following later on in the books where she gets sent off to this sort of other land to try and hunt down this like artifact for her like mentor. And she also, when she's on her mission, meets this kind of scholar called Chief Millie, who I love, and she also has the companionship of her sort of pseudo sibling who she's kind of been raised with, called Tao, who is one of the best characters. I love him. And like the antagonistic relationship, like sibling relationship, it's like god tier sibling relationship between Soy and Tao is just so good. And I really love the relationship between Soy and Chief Millie as well. So this first book is sapphic, and then the second book is like, well, we're still following Soy and Chief Millie as well and their relationship, and I love the progression of it. And also then Tal is sort of the main character in book 2, and he's a Killian, but he's like a complete disaster. And it's just so good. And the sequel as well has one of the best like grumpy mentor feral orphan mentee relationships ever. Like this book has a bit of that, but the second book is just god tier. And yeah, I just love it. Like this book just has all my favourite like tropes and things, and it's just so good. So I would highly recommend. I listened to the audiobook for this one, which was really good. It's narrated by Avita J, who does Bee's narration in Realm of the Elderlings, so obviously love that. But I haven't listened to the audiobook for the second one because it's a different narrator, so I just read that one physically. But yeah, this series, just so good, so would highly recommend. And next we have the Nightrunner series by Lynn Frelling, which is a semi-recent favourite. And this one is just like classic fantasy, but queer. And it's written in the 90s, which is like very impressive, I think, and very ahead of its time. There are some slightly like more problematic elements. I wouldn't say it's that problematic really, and like no more problematic than Realm of the Elderlings is, or probably less actually, because Fitz has some of the homophobic tendencies, but this book is very like queer norm and very queer friendly, which is really nice. And yeah, so following Alec and Sergil. Alec, who at the start of the book is like falsely accused of like a crime, and he's thrown in this prison, and then he gets rescued from prison by Sergil, and then Sergil kind of takes Alec under his wing as like an apprentice to be, because Sergil's like part of these Nightrunners in this city, so Nightrunners are like spies basically, so then they get up to all this like skullduggery mischief and stuff, and it's just really fun. And like throughout the series it gets a bit more sort of fantasy-y, and there's the third book they basically travel to this like elf land. I don't know, but it's really good, so much fun. I love the main relationship, it's just very like sweet and supportive. It's not in the first book really, but later in the series. And yeah, it's just so good. Like all the characters I love, just really love it all. So yeah. Okay, another series I absolutely love is which is very underrated, I feel, is the A Pale Light in the Black by KB Wages. And this book just is so good. It's very like Becky Chambers-esque. But it's a sci-fi, and what happens, there's this crew of this ship called I think it's called the Zuma Geist, and they are basically competing in these like space Olympics basically, and they just at the start of the book get this new like lieutenant joining their crew, and she is like trying to fit in basically, and she has come from this family who control this substance called LifeX, which like allows people to sort of extend their lives in space. She's trying to fit in with the crew, and there's lots of like fan family. It's very kind of wholesome-y. At the same time, there's also this drug, the LifeX, there's counterfeits like on the market which are making people really ill and kind of killing them sometimes. So there's also that sort of mystery going on as well. And it's just really good. The kind of captain of the ship, Rosa, she has a wife and a child, and it's just, I love their relationship. Also there's I would say a bit, not really in book 1, but in the sequel there's a polyamorous relationship which I love. There's just various like queer characters. It's very like queer friendly, and I just love it all. It's just that sort of, I feel like it's the sort of like sci-fi fantasy that I love. They're like slightly cozy but also very dramatic. Book. I love all the characters. There's so many like just favourites, and we just cannot recommend it enough. And next we have The Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons, and this whole series, so I have them here. So like The Ruin of Kings, the Name of All Things, Memory of Souls, House of Voice, and the last one is called Discord of the Gods. So this is another fantasy series which is like super queer, or is very, very bisexual, I would say. And it's just so much fun. Like their series is just, it's a little bit over the top and cheesy at times, but it is just a great ride, like from start to finish. And the first book, we're following this character called Kieran, who has, like, when he was little, discovered, like, raised sort of as, I don't know, like his father's like assistant in like singing, barding, I don't know, but then he discovers he's actually a scion of this noble house, so he sort of gets taken in by them and like raised by them. So we're kind of following two timelines, so we're sort of following that timeline, and then also later where he's being like sold to this Black Dagger Brotherhood, which I'm sure that's what they're called, but then also I don't know if I've just made that up because there's like a romance series, but anyway, something like that. And so he's like goes to this like magical assassin island thing. That's like the first book, but there's so much like crazy fantasy. There's a lot of like soul swapping. There's some very convoluted family politics. I would say if you don't like very chaotic books and books that just don't always make a lot of sense, then maybe avoid this series. But there are so many just like great characters. The main, like, there's a main polyamorous relationship, which I would say becomes canon in book 3, but it's definitely teased in the first 2. Yeah, like all 3 of the main characters I'm pretty sure are bisexual. There's like side sapphic relationships, which I actually really love that relationship as well. There's another like sort of polyamorous trio, but not quite the same, because the like main 3 are just like all in love with each other. But then this other one, which I also really love, is like there's they're married, 2 of them, but one of them is asexual and one of them is like gay, I think, or yeah, pretty sure. And then but then they adopt this like, well, not adopt, but take under their wing this like monk, and then so that so then the monk and the husband have like a relationship as well, and but they're all like know what's going on and everything, and oh, it's just so good. And then yeah, there's just a lot of great characters. There's also another sort of asexual like romance, which I really, really like, and yeah, just it's all just so good. Like basically every character is queer. It's great. So I would highly recommend that series as well. Also the Library of the Unwritten series by AJ Hackworth, I think I have here. This is another one where it's a polyamorous book. You can tell I like them, and I feel like, you know, I said at the beginning about not repeating books, but I feel like I'm gonna have to repeat some of the polyamory ones in the polyamory video, because yeah. So this one we're following this library in hell, which is, and it's a branch of the library called the Unwritten wing, yeah, where like books that haven't been written yet live, and one of the book characters escapes into the human world to try and track down his author, but obviously this is bad, so then the librarian tracks and her assistant try and track him down, and then they get up to all sorts of adventures, and they're like traveling across realms and things, and they're also being hunted by this angel called Ramiel, and it's just all so good. Like I love their relationship. I also love Claire is pansexual, which I really like. Yeah, and like seeing that representation. And then just everything is just so good. And there's like these books as well are just like an ode to book lovers. I feel like I just love them all, and yeah, just hug them. Yeah, so that's this series. Would highly recommend if you haven't read it already, and you like just the sort of slightly, I feel like all these books are on a particular brand, but I guess that's my favourite sort of book, so yeah. And then because I don't want this series to be just like entirely fantasy books, I mean that isn't the majority of what I read, but I'm gonna try and include like at least 2 books in every video which are not fantasy. So we'll talk now about some of my favourite like romances, because yeah, I love romance. And actually the 2 like that have just skyrocketed to being like all-time favourites, I think I read this year, which is good, but we need more sapphic adult romance, because there is not enough. Like yeah, just we need more. I mean, I'm sure there's like plenty that you can read if you find it, but I just feel like there needs to be even more. So the first one is Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake, and I really love this one so much. So following Delilah Green, who is like this photographer in New York. She's quite hotshot, and she has a sort of estranged relationship with her sort of step family, but her stepsister is getting married and she wants Delilah to come back to the wedding. So Delilah comes back to this like small town, I think it's in like Oregon or one of those states, in order to try and antagonise Astrid, who is a stepsister. She hooks up with one of Astrid's best friends called Claire, and then obviously it's a romance between Delilah and Claire, but then also at the same time there's sort of a bit of a, I really like as well the relationship between Astrid and Delilah and that sort of reconciliation and the like step siblings, and I don't know, I just feel like it's very interesting. And then we're getting Astrid's book later this year, which I'm excited about. And I really loved as well Claire. I loved her so much. Claire's like a single mum because she had her daughter Ruby when she was very young, and the dad's a bit of a useless layabout. But actually I really like the dad character. I sort of want him to get his own book as well. I just loved everything about it, really. It's a great romance with some sort of heavier themes as well, but like still major like rom-com-y vibes. And then also Count Your Lucky Stars by Alexandra Belfler, which is like the final book in that little series, but it's like a sort of second chance romance, which I really liked. And yeah, we're following these two characters called Margot and Olivia, and like they were like childhood friends, and then they had sort of this like disaster hookup when they were about 18, and then they've sort of become estranged, and then they like get back in touch with each other, kind of, or see each other again, because Olivia's hired to plan the wedding of like Margot's best friend. So yeah, then they start like rekindling, and oh, it's just so good. I just love both characters. I love the romance. I love the sex scenes. And they're all just so good. So yeah, there's like a face sitting scene, which we love to see. Yeah, so there's some favourites. I will just mention a couple of favourite like queer characters from books that are like all-time favourites, but I wouldn't really call the book, like I wouldn't read the book if you want a sort of queer book. But the characters I love. So the Fool from Realm of the Eldlings, one of my like easily top 5 favourite characters ever. Yeah, Leo from Age of Madness, who's an absolute disaster. If you want like mess, like yeah, he's terrible, but he's good. He is literally the embodiment of the homophobic dog meme. Yeah. Farah from the Dandelion Dynasty, I love her so much. The Dandelion Dynasty has a really cute sapphic relationship in, which I thought I was queerbaiting myself in book 2, and then it turned out to be canon, and I was like, yes. Although it's not really a major plot point, but it is there and it's good, so I loved it. Yeah, so that is everything for this video. Let me know in the comments your favourite like queer book ever. I'm sure I've forgotten something, because there are so many books that I love. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I hope you're all having a really great day, and I will see you next time.